We begin tonight with historic news. For the first time in our country's history, a former president has been convicted of a felony. Now we're learning how San Diego leaders feel about this new development for Donald Trump and what comes next. Good evening. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Marcella Lee.
I'm Carlo Cicchetto. The 7 men and 5 women on the jury in the Manhattan criminal trial of Donald Trump deliberated less than 12 hours over 2 days before they found the former president guilty on all 34 felony counts.
Trump stood accused of falsifying records to cover up an alleged sexual encounter with adult film star Stormy Daniels. Michael George has details from the courthouse.
Moments after his historic conviction, former President Donald Trump denounced the verdict, finding him guilty of all 34 counts in connection with a hush money payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels.
This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. But the real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. We didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man.
The only voice that matters is the voice of the jury, and the jury has spoken.
People gathered here outside the Manhattan criminal courthouse expressed their opinions about this history-making verdict.
And just to see that, a president can be found guilty, a president can be held accountable, I think is an incredible show of democracy.
This is political prosecution, and there's absolutely nothing behind this case. And I hope they appeal it.
During the trial, Trump's former lawyer and fixer, Michael Cohen, helped prosecutors draw a link between Trump and charges he falsified business records to disguise reimbursements for a $130,000 payment. Prosecutors argued that was to buy Daniels silence about an alleged 2006 sexual encounter with Trump. Trump denies the encounter ever took place. In closing arguments, Trump's lead attorney called Cohen the MVP of liars.
They knew that they didn't always have perfect evidence, but every moment they tried to say, we're backing it up. You don't just have to believe Michael Cohen. Look at what everybody else is telling you as well.
The judge set Trump's sentencing for July 11th, 4 days before the Republican National Convention. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
It is believed that Trump cannot legally pardon himself if he would be elected president in November.
Okay, now let's turn to CBS 8's Rocio De La Fe, who joins us in studio with more on what's next and how San Diego County political leaders are reacting to this jury's verdict. Rocio.
Yeah, good evening to you both. Tonight, I reached out to leaders across San Diego to get their reaction to today's historic conviction of former President Donald Trump, and I received a mix of concern and support.
This was a disgrace.
We've never before seen a president be convicted of felonies.
After just 12 hours of deliberation, a New York jury delivered a historic verdict, finding former President Trump guilty on all 34 counts of falsifying business records in his criminal so-called hush money trial. This makes Trump the first president to be convicted of a crime, but he can still run for president.
Well, this verdict, these 34 felony counts that Donald Trump was convicted by a jury on today, doesn't prevent him from running for the presidency. There's no requirement that bars you from running for the presidency if you're a convicted felon.
Reaction among local leaders fell along party lines. Congressman Scott Peters called the trial a fair process and said, "Our legal system worked as intended." Representative Juan Vargas wrote, "No one is above the law, not even former President Donald Trump." And Congresswoman Sarah Jacobs wrote on her social media page, "Justice is served." But El Cajon Republican Mayor Bill Wells, who's running for Congress, says today's verdict sets a dangerous precedent for the future of the nation.
And I think we're going to regret this as a nation. What is to stop this from happening time and time again? Anytime they want you out, anytime they don't like the fact that you're getting too close to winning that seat, they can find frivolous lawsuits. If you don't like Donald Trump, win the ballot box.
In a statement, Representative Darrell Issa told CBS 8 that this was a charge that should never have been brought in a trial that never should have happened. How it affects the November election is to be seen. But Wells believes this only gives Trump strength heading into November.
People are going to crawl over broken glass to elect Donald Trump.
So independent voters are really split on whether this was a fair trial or not. But if enough of them are convinced that this is one reason not to vote for Donald Trump, that could make the difference.
And President Trump is likely to appeal this verdict.
Rocio, when we talk about punishment, what could Donald Trump be facing?
Well, the former president, of course, is
going up for sentencing next month. He does face up to 4 years in prison, but any time served is unlikely, according to political experts. He could be given probation with no prison time instead.
We'll find out very soon. Rocio De La Fe. Thanks, Rocio.
No problem.
Former President Donald Trump, in the meantime, is still facing 54 more charges in 3 other cases. Here's a look at where those investigations stand.
In the 2020 presidential election subversion case, a U.S. district judge scrapped a March trial date. The Supreme Court will issue a ruling on Trump's presidential immunity claim in the next couple of months. In the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case, a judge just this week rejected the request for a gag order. No trial date has been set there.
And in the Georgia election subversion case, there is also no trial date set at this point. To keep up with the latest on all of these cases, make sure to download the CBS 8 app. You can also follow us online and head to CBS8.com.